Hey guys, Charai5 here, and happy 2019. 2018 is behind us, and I guess a few years ago I started a bit of a tradition, which was to make a final video for 2018, and I guess a first video for 2019, where I basically recap things that have happened in the year, maybe give a little words of encouragement for the new year. And you might notice something different, which is that I usually have a graph. Something that is not a tradition is that I usually have a graphic of like a fireplace or a campfire as the background for these videos. And this year I don't. And I think that that's part of the things that I'm trying to change for 2019. You guys don't really know my face all too well. I don't show my face very often. I'm not very confident, I guess, in in my appearance, but I kind of want to change that in 2019. I don't know if I'm going to succeed, if that's going to be one of my few New Year's resolutions that I'm actually going to come through with. But 2018, it's been a year. It's been it's been a really wild ride because, and I know I say that a lot, but I look back on the last 8 years because you always sort of consider eras in your life, um, and I look back at the last 8 years and I can think of every single year in my mind, and think of them as a part or a chapter, I guess. And I think a lot of people do, but for me especially, I think back on, oh, what was I doing in 2014? What was I doing in 2015? And a lot of it, it sort of all goes together, and it sort of combines into how you perceive that year. And 2018 to me, it kind of meshes with 2017 in a way, because 2017 just seemed so quick to me. Like it came and went in a flash. And 2017 was hard. 2017 was definitely a difficult year for me, for those around me, and a lot of complicated things happened in 2017. It was a very emotional year. It was a year of a lot of growth, but it was difficult nonetheless. And 2018, it felt like almost an extension of it, but in a kind of a good way, because I tell people that when I look back at this year, parts of it have felt really slow and parts of it have felt really quick, and I want more slow moments. I want more moments that I can look back and be like, man, this is taking forever. But at the same time, I'm okay with that. I'm fine with this taking a while. It's scary to watch life pass you by, and that was a huge thing that I dealt with in 2017, and for a good part of this year as well. At the beginning, I have a lot of issues when it comes to stuff like that. Looking back and being introspective, and I guess I don't really talk a whole lot about myself when it comes to this channel. I more so do it during my Twitch streams, where I get a little bit more real, and I get sometimes even, a little saying I get feely is the wrong thing to say, but we go on feels trips, as I like to call them, and I guess as a lot of people like to call them. But I always start to talk about feelings, and I feel like that's something that's very important. A lot of people are very divisive on that subject, on the subject of feelings, whether or not we feel too much, whether or not we should feel that much, whether or not we don't feel enough. And I think that feeling is something that we all have. That's one of the reasons why we're so divided, is because we all feel differently about a lot of different things. And maybe we can get into that a little later, but I guess to start off with, I do want to do a bit of a recap, and I'm sure I'm going to leave stuff out when it comes to what my 2018 was like. So for those of you that didn't know, I lived for about a year and a half, 2 years in Florida, and it was a very interesting experience because I had not. I'm kind of used to moving around a little bit, not as much as a lot of other people, even people I know. They've moved around more than I have, but I was never used to living in a single place at one time. Every couple of years, my family would move to be closer to family because they would move. And for the longest time, from 2005 to 2016, 2017, we lived here in Mexico. And for reasons I'm not going to get into, but we moved there. It was very difficult. That's part of what made 2017 so difficult. The whole moving process, starting over, which, I was fine with. I definitely was excited to see a new place. I like comfort, I like being in a single place, but at the same time, the idea of going out of that comfort zone and going into somewhere that I'd never been before was very exciting to me. And so we did that. This year we decided, you know what? Okay, we came, we saw, we're done. Let's go. We miss family. Let's go back. So I'm here now. I'm almost back in a place of comfort. It was the move itself was also very stressful, but once that cools over, you feel different. And I think I do feel different because I came, I saw this house, and I'm like, wow, it feels like I never left. And we decided, we were going to remodel and make it not feel the way it felt before. And in a way we did. My room definitely, I'm used to the way my room is now, but I've had the room the way it is for a few months, and it definitely makes the difference because before I used to use this laptop right here. This was my my main machine for a few years, actually. It was a thing I would use to edit, and it was a godsend for, like, at the time I got it. It was so much faster than the old computer I used to use for way longer. And over the years it slowed down, and now I have my new machine, and that's mostly in part due to my friends, Honest Bigums, who, he gave me all the well, he didn't give me the parts, but he told me, like, what parts to get in order to put this together, and so far I'm loving it. And I feel like that's another sign of things to come. Like, I was reflecting on this on the last stream I did, which was the equipment I had at the start of this year, and even last year. It does not compare to the equipment I have now, and the equipment does not make the creator, but it certainly helps, because if you're a good creator, you can make great things on anything. But I feel like this is definitely going to speed things up and allow me to learn a lot quicker and to do much better things in the future. So we came back, and you living in Florida was great. And I got to meet so many wonderful people this year as well. It astonishes me that every time I think, like, this is it, I can't make any more friends, or the people I know now are the people I'm going to know for the rest of my life. And, then Minus World happened, and, it wasn't just Nathaniel Bandy anymore. I now knew all these other wonderful people: Nintendo, Swanky Box, Hobo Bros, who are Kev Devs and SMG4, D-Pad Gamer, Tetrabit Gaming, Simple Flips, Nico BBQ, all these wonderful people, and even people beyond them, like Luhu and Tetrabit Girl, who I met because of them, and they're all just great. They're all great people, and it was amazing. It was amazing to meet them in person and to go to E3. Like, that was something that I never thought I would do, and meeting these friends and getting to know them and having them influence a lot of the things maybe I want to do and that I wouldn't do myself if not for them. It's funny too, because after E3, I went back to Too Many Games in Oaks, Pennsylvania, which is also sort of a yearly tradition for me, to meet up with more of my friends. And the decision to go to TMG for the first time would have never happened if not for Nathaniel Bandy, who, it's so strange to think I've known him for this long, but he's helped me out with so many things, and I try to return the favor as many times as I can, because it's one of those things where you can never be thankful enough for the things that someone does for you. And I've met more people because of him. I've met such great people, done the things I've done, and stuff that I probably would have never done. And E3 was a blast. It was very tiring. I thought my feet were going to fall off, but it was so much fun, and even better than that was just hanging out with them after the fact, like after E3 was over, hanging out with the Minus World crew, most of us anyway, um, and having fun and getting to know each other a little better and doing all that fun stuff. And then, too many games happened. And though we weren't as many people as we were last year, because last year it was pretty much almost everyone I knew from online, they were there. And this year it wasn't that, but at the same time, it was still a great time. It was still so much fun just going and seeing and experiencing different things. And I know that a lot of people might miss the content that I make, because truly 2018 was not a productive year for me, in the sense that I didn't focus on the channel a whole lot. I didn't make a lot of everything wrong with that, people want me to make. And I tried to put them out in spurts, but the thing was, and truly, like, it was something that this year I did not want to focus on. I wanted to focus on Soulstar this year, and I did, even if there were times where I wasn't focusing on it and I was focusing on other projects, it always went back to me wanting to work on Soulstar. And I have a lot of projects that I've started and I have not been able to finish, and that I want to finish for the channel, but I didn't, because my priorities went to Soulstar. And Soulstar is still my priority, don't get me wrong. It's still something that I'm going to be putting a lot of time into, but at the same time, I want to shift focus from that project onto my channel again, so that I may be able... It's funny, because I feel like if I focus on the channel, I'll be able to focus on Soulstar in a way that kind of exempts me from more responsibility, in the sense that if I'm focusing on this as my main source of income, it means I can pay the people who need to be paid to help me with this project, because there are people on the project that so far have been helping me out of the kindness of their hearts. And I mentioned this during the Soulstar Q&A, but there are people that have graciously contributed without expecting anything in return. And to me, I'm thinking about it in like these artists and these actors and all these wonderful people. It's just not right. It's just not right to ask them to help and, not have recompense, and then have someone else help, but they do receive some sort of recognition or some sort of payment. So to me, that's not right. And I want to focus on the channel, so that... So far, this is coming out of pocket, and that's why I want to focus on the channel. I feel like I definitely need to do that, especially when talking to my peers. You learn a lot about the business side of things and how things should be handled, and there's a lot of opportunities that you don't get because you're not focusing on a certain thing. And I want to be able to focus on it, and I want to be able to, share in those sort of successes that my friends have had that I unfortunately did not achieve this year. So 2019 that's definitely another one of my resolutions, is to work more on my channel. I was able to go back to visit my friends back in October. Unfortunately, that was one of the things that I think went wrong this year. That was one of the negative things, was that I injured my leg again. A lot of people might not know this, but I may have, because doctors still don't really know, but I may have torn my ACL when I was younger, and I've had a very sensitive left knee ever since. And during my time with my friends, I accidentally tore it again. And this time it was worse than any other time it's been, and I still have not really recovered all that much. Like, I can walk without the use of a cane or without crutches anymore, but I can still feel it. It's not the way it used to be. And I'm starting 2019 with still going to the doctors and figuring out other, I guess, more personal matters. But it was a bump in the road, It was something that I didn't let deter me from how much fun 2018 was and how much I was enjoying it, because 2018 started out sort of, I tried to make it the best I could. It started out sort of slow in a way. I didn't know what I was doing. Like, pretty much the entirety of January was spent streaming. I was streaming the entirety of the original Crash trilogy, the entirety of the original Spyro trilogy, 100%ing all 6 games, and I did, and we had a great time, and that was how January was spent. And then on, I was focusing either on the channel or on Soulstar, mostly on Soulstar. And again, that's why a lot of content didn't get made in this year. But again, for 2019, that's one of my resolutions. I wanna focus more on that as well. And I don't know, I guess maybe that's a good segue into, I guess, the second half of it, which is the more words of encouragement section of it. Because as much as I adored 2018, because in hindsight, like, the more I talk about it, the more I realize, like, yeah, it was a good year. Like, man. It still had its hardships. There were still a lot of emotional moments, and not because of anything that happened in particular, but just because of the kind of person I am. I'm not the kind of person that takes things lightly, or like, there are times I like to take things seriously. There are other times I don't like to take them as seriously, and I think it might have been this year. It must have been this year. For the longest time in these past 8 years, there have been a lot of moments of self-doubt. There have been a lot of moments of not loving myself. I said it at the beginning, I don't show my face very often on this channel because I'm very self-conscious about it. I don't think I look very good, and I don't know. I've never been very confident in that regard. And I would ask myself a lot of questions. Why don't I have this? Why aren't I that? And I admitted to myself a lot of times that I didn't love myself. And that was okay. Because, I loved other people and other people loved me, and that was fine. Like, I would keep working on myself. And one day, while we were in Florida, it kind of dawned on me. Like, during another moment of self-hate, like, of me thinking, man, I'm a wreck. I am not good enough. I am this, I'm that. It came to me, like, if I didn't love myself and if I didn't care, why would I care? Like, I know that saying it like that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but if I didn't love myself, why would I care so much about my own misfortunes? Why would I care that I'm hurt? Why would I care that I'm sad? And I feel like I can relay that same message to a lot of people out there that may feel the same way. Because I see a lot of people on the internet, make sarcastic remarks about themselves and say, like, oh, I'm trash, oh, I'm this, I'm that. And maybe even react the same way I do, in the sense that they say that they don't love themselves. But if you want things to get better, even if you're not necessarily doing anything about it, which you should, but even if you're not doing anything about it and you want things to get better, it's because, in a way, you love yourself. You love yourself enough to want to be better and to have things go better for you. I've never liked saying that I love myself because, in a way, it makes me feel selfish. It makes me feel egotistical. But I love myself enough to want to better myself in a lot of respects, to help people. Because that's one of the things that brings me the most joy. And it's one of the reasons why I care so much about this channel. It's one of the reasons I care so much about Soulstar. It's because I care about people and relaying messages to them and helping them maybe open their eyes in a way that mine needed to be open previously. Sometimes we can't see past our nose. We can't see past our own world, the things that we think about ourselves, the things we think about other people. And that's a problem. It's a problem that sometimes we think about ourselves too much. And I'm not saying in a more selfish way. I'm more so saying we need to also think about how someone else is feeling and not just how we're feeling. Um, we're important, of course, like we also have to think about ourselves, and we need to take care of ourselves. It's I read this somewhere, and I thought it was a really good analogy. When you get on an airplane and people are explaining how the oxygen masks work, they always insist that you put your mask on first before you help someone else. And I think that emotionally, it's the same thing. Like if you're not okay, and for the longest time, I had the opposite belief where it didn't matter if I was okay, I could still help other people, and I tried my best. But it's certainly easier when you're taking care of yourself first. If you can manage to find that happiness within yourself and realize, maybe not even necessarily be happy, but to realize that you love yourself enough to want to be happy, it can do wonders for your outlook on life. It can do wonders for the way you perceive other people. And I think 2018 was the year that I really started to practice self-love in a way that I no longer deemed selfish. Because like I said, I always thought of it as, it's selfish. It's selfish to love myself. I shouldn't do it. But there are healthy and selfless ways of loving yourself as well. And I try to love myself because I want better things for myself so that I can do better things for other people. And I love myself to strive to make my dream of making Soulstar become a reality. And I finally was able to swallow my pride and acknowledge the fact that I need help. I need help from other people to make this a reality. And I've sought help from other people, and it hasn't gone well, but that doesn't mean I'm going to give up. And I feel like, on a similar note, neither should any of you. Like, if things are not going your way, because I met a lot of people last year, the year before, this year, that have needed a lot of help because they feel lost. And if you need help like that, then, head on over to our Discord. We're an open environment. We love helping people out. We love making people feel welcome. And if you're not comfortable with, a more social environment, then absolutely, look into talking to a professional, because there's nothing wrong with doing that. The first, it's very cliche to say, but the first step is admitting, not to others, but to yourself, that you have a problem. And if you go to someone and they're able to help you, that's awesome. There's services like BetterHelp, who, I'm not affiliated with personally, but I've heard firsthand from other people that they're an excellent service. And again, I encourage it. If you don't like going out of your house, that's an alternative. And anxiety is terrible. I know that firsthand, and again, maybe that's sort of a first to confess on the channel, is that I've suffered from anxiety pretty much my whole life, and it's not impossible to get out of your shell. A lot of thoughts go through my head. I'm a terrible artist. I'm a terrible content creator. That's why I don't make as much money as my friends do, or I am not as successful as my friends are, because I'm not as good as they are, or I'm not as creative, or I'm not this, I'm not that. You compare, I do, and I know a lot of other people do. I compare my work to a lot of other people's work. And it makes me feel bad, because I look at my work and I'm like, man, this is so lazy. I like it, but I acknowledge that it's not very good, and it's hard. It's hard to live with that little voice in your head that's always telling you that. This is the reason you don't have, like I said, I'm not going to get into specific and personal things, but this is the reason you don't have that. This is the reason that happened. This is the reason this is the reason that. It's crushing. It's very crushing. And the state of the world, politics aside, is Sometimes you look at it and it's getting better. Sometimes you look at it and it's getting worse. Something I told, some people in the Discord recently was that for the longest time, you grow up in an environment where you're used to seeing violence on the news constantly, that you become desensitized to it. You're just like, oh, another murder, another tragedy, another unfortunate event that happened. But you don't feel for them, And just the other day, a news station was doing a recap of the year and the events that went down on TV, and I left the channel on and was looking at a lot of events that happened worldwide, not just in Mexico, not just in the States, not worldwide. And I saw tragedies, tragedies where a lot of people died and a lot of people got hurt, and in certain cases it was stuff that couldn't be prevented. Nothing anyone could, no one was at fault, but nothing anyone could do could save those people. And I think for the first time, I felt genuinely sad about it. I was like, man, those people, you think about those people and you think about their families and you think about how it's just over. In the blink of an eye, it's their life is over. And then you see other cases where people are hurting each other over ideologies and over ways that they think. And honestly, pretty silly stuff like that. People get mad over the dumbest things. And I acknowledge that. Like I've said it myself, life is too short to not get upset over things. It's part of what makes us human, our passion to get upset at things and to criticize them and to critique them. People always say that life is too short to get mad over silly things, but I also think it's too short to not do so, because that passion should never die. Negativity is a bad thing, but it doesn't mean you have to take it too seriously. And I think I've said this before on the channel, like if I get mad at a video game, I'm never, it's not something that's going to make my day terrible. I'm not going to be pissy with my family or my friends because like, oh, this level's too hard. I'm pissed off all day. No. Yeah, I'm mad, but I make a big deal out of it. Damn it, the game. But that's where it ends. I get upset, I get mad, but I'm not mad at anyone. I'm just angered in the moment. I don't take it out on anyone. I don't do anything about it. I get my anger out through yelling at a game. But that's it. And in turn, people in the real world are fighting physically for the things they believe in. And they're dying over it. And it's amazing that we live in a time where we're all so connected to each other through the wonderful thing that is the internet. Without the internet, I would not have been able to meet the most important people in my life. People who have become more than friends. People who are as close as family to me now. You get to see different sides of arguments. You get to see how people feel, and yet people still stick so much to their own beliefs that they can't see the other side because they don't want to. And that's something that I've tried to do so hard this year, is to think about how other people feel. Think how they think. Reason the way they would, not just the way I would. And I think that's what killed me the most. To see people die and get hurt and hurt each other. be so willing to hurt one another over stuff like this? Lately, something I've been doing is watching happy things, because it's stuff that is never reported on the news. It's something people never talk about. People are always talking about tragedies, things that went wrong, negative things. And every night before I go to bed, I try to look up happy news. Even if it's like a video of a child finding out that he's about to be adopted and crying out of emotion, is like that makes me cry too, because it just makes me feel so happy, and it reminds me how thoughtful and how kind people can be. And I feel like that's something we need to remember. We may have our moments of anger towards each other. We may have moments where we don't like someone else, where maybe sometimes we want to give in to a more animal instinct and do something more crass, more severe. And we judge the human race. We judge other people based on the actions that they did, which, in an individual case is fine. You're more judged on your actions than you are anything else, but we can't always judge the human race by the bad things. Because there are people out there who are doing good. There are people out there who are good. And I think that every single person watching this right now is a great person. I've seen the kindness in this world. It has been shown to me, and I can never be thankful enough for that, because that kindness that has been shown to me. I've seen so many terrible things too. Not inherently terrible things like deaths and stuff like that, but I've seen awful sides of people as well. Granted, we were younger and I was picked on a lot, and I didn't have friends, and I was very lonely, and to me, it felt like no one was respecting me or being nice to me. But you grow up, and there's more to life than that. I hear so many times that there are people or kids out there who tell me like they don't have friends or that they're lonely, and to me, it brings back those moments of my childhood. But it gets better, and it gets better because you have to have that hope. And that's the one thing that I want to leave you guys with today, is that things may get awful. You could be in a position where you have no job, not enough money to go to school, a family member dies, a tragedy in the family happens, you feel worthless, you feel like nothing you're doing is contributing anything to anybody. You feel lonely. And then there's one thing that happens, and it keeps you going. And I tell you this because it's what happened to me. 4 years ago, that was my situation. And then I was given the opportunity to monetize my videos and to maybe make a living off of YouTube. And I took that chance. I never thought I would. I never wanted to. But I took that chance, and it was one of the most important and life-changing decisions. Like, you hear this all the time, I'm sure. Like, you hear this all the time from different content creators saying, oh, YouTube saved me, or YouTube changed my life, or this or that. But it's so true. I would not know the people I know today if not for YouTube. Even the people I met before I started this as a job, I met through this platform. People I've known for almost 10 years now. It allowed me to pursue something I wanted to pursue, which was a creative outlet. Even if it was a creative outlet through something not creative, if it was something through copying someone else. But despite all of the bad things that happened that year, that was my light in the dark. And after that, a lot of bad things happened, but a lot of really good things happened too. And you can't define a year or a day even by what kind of bad things happen. Like, and I read this somewhere else too. It's like, oh, what happened? Oh, I had a bad day. And oftentimes it's not a bad day. It's a bad 5 minutes that you turned into a bad day, because you dwelled on it so much. But why can't we dwell on the good things? Why can't we dwell on the positive? Things might not go your way. Right now, like, I hate to go back to Soulstar because I don't want you guys to think it's advertisement. I don't want you guys to think like, oh, I have to say it every other minute because I need to remind people. But I can't stress enough how much I've been working on this project over the past year. And every single time, at the end of the day, I'm thinking, I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know where this is going to end up, where it's going to go. I want it to do well. I think it's going to do well. But I don't know if anyone's going to have faith in it the way I do. The way my colleagues do. The ones I have so far. But the thing that keeps me going is the hope that it will. Always have hope. Always have hope that things are going to be better, that things maybe won't go your way, but that they'll be good regardless. There have been so many people that have supported me and have made me feel that love that as a kid I never thought I'd get. They're the people who encourage me and keep me going. And in that respect, I feel very successful and very fortunate. Enjoy your life. There's more to it than just the negative things. There's always a solution, even if it's not what you think it is. There's always a way. It might not be what you want. It might not be what you think you were going to get. But it can be good. Have hope. Smile. Make someone else's day by doing something nice. Spread the love. Because no matter what color you are, no matter what you believe in, no matter what you think, we're all part of one race. The human race. And I think we need to be kinder to each other. Give a helping hand, even if people don't ask for it. It doesn't matter if they ask for it. If they ask you to step away, then by all means step away. But if you can help, why not? Why not make someone else's day? Who knows how many other people's day they'll make? So, chin up, head strong, and let's make the world a better place, all right? See you guys in 2019. This is Char 5 signing out of 2018.